Hello. Right, today I'm going to talk about coursework, specifically the design, how to write up the design section. Now, everything you need is on class files in Teams, okay? Uh, Probably put stuff in OneNote as well, but you've got previous students' work, which is helpful. The other one is the write-up guide, which I'm going to be using now. So, um, I'm going to be using local stuff because it's a bit quicker. Now, let's have a look. So I use the write-up guide to start with, and then we'll talk about how we do that. Now, it's 12 marks. Let's see, Bigglescombe is a good one to look at there, which I've got open here. I actually quite like Kirsty Carotti's as well, but they're all good. Now, I'll get to his one as well. If you've got the table of contents, you can just control click and it will take you there. Yeah, his one was very nice. Anyway, let's start with the design section. So the first bit is you need a hierarchy chart. Now, what you don't need to worry about there is getting too involved here. It doesn't have to be too detailed. Basically, it's just really showing the flow of your program as from a user's perspective. All right, not from a program's point of view. So you'll have maybe form, password form that will open main form, and on there you've got these options to get you to other forms, or they could be buttons. Now, if you look at Kirsty Carotti's on this one, it's fairly straightforward what's happened here. I think she used now what's it called? Can't remember what it's called now. The Microsoft program that does drawings. Visio. There we go. She's got main login, and then she's got this floor option, and that will take you into these options bar and so forth. All right. But if you look at Bigglescombe's, he went crazy on this one. He made it look very nice. It's got an eye for that sort of thing. But not necessarily need to go into that sort of way of doing it, but as long as it's clear. I mean, it just needs to be an overview. Don't get too bogged down in detail there. Right, okay, so after that, you need to do normalized entry relationship diagram. Now you can just copy it straight from Access. Even if it's on Azure, you can still get it from there because you get a nice view there. And then you need to do entity description in standard notation, which is just going to look like this. Okay, so there's it screen captured, and then we've got underlining. You can't see the underline so easy because spell check, but you can just get the idea. All right, and then we need to go right. Okay, now we've done that. We need to describe each table. Now don't use the access data types. Use the proper SQL data types. So if it's in Azure, you'll probably see the data types it's using. It won't be text and stuff like that you can access. It would be like varchar and things like that. Say if it's a primary or foreign key as well for each table. And again, we'll have a look at Archie's in this time. You see his one, I think he used SQL Server possibly there to do that. Or no, could be MySQL. No, it doesn't matter anyway. There's the notation, and then there's his description. Okay, so that's going to go through a fair few, and Kirsty's similar sort of thing. Okay, so do not use the access data types there. Right, now the next bit you're going to have to do is the form and algorithm design. For this section, you need to show the forms that you produced. As a rough guide, 3 forms will do here. Now that's not set in stone, but what we really need to do is show forms. There's no point just showing some really cruddy little forms that you created and miss out the whole main theme of your project. So we need the main theme of your project that does the most work. Uses code to transform data, not just read and update. Has data entry validation that you can demonstrate. So it's checking to make sure you can't put rubbish in. Anything shows off what a competent programmer you are, where you've created standalone functions, if you created your own classes and objects, has SQL that covers more than one table and criteria and or aggregate SQL. So we're looking for SQL that's accessing stuff from more than one table. with criteria and aggregate SQL, so like average, max, min, and that sort of stuff. And then for each form, have a screenshot of the form. Don't need to design it, you just need a screenshot. A structure chart where you define your own functions. So if you don't have to use this method if you don't want to, but I'm basically saying I've created a method called add here, and then I'm sending off number 1 and number 2, and it's coming back with result. I'm sending 3 things in, but that's even coming back. All right. So just some way of showing the call, what you're calling here. You could use a hierarchy chart here, really, in terms of the ones you've created. If you've just got functions that are just pure event methods, then there's no need to do anything there. Obviously, ideally, you will have your own standalone methods. A class diagram, if you defined any classes that are not forms. Obviously, every form's a class, but you know, if you've done a custom control, that would be a class. That would be useful, but no need to do that if it's just forms and nothing else. Pseudocode and or structured English that transforms data. Right, now in order to do that, I've written now a separate thing, and it's called example of pseudocode with with SQL. So let's have a look at that. Now have I got it open? The answer is no. So let's open that then. And I can't find it. There we go. Right, so what do we have here then? Well, there's some C# on the top bit, and below it is an equivalent of pseudocode in terms of AQA pseudocode. It looks a lot like Visual Basic, in other words. So there's a for loop that will go from 0 to 9. So for I equals, that means becomes equal to. Ifs, double equals there is a comparison, not equal there. That's it in pseudocode. Okay, and then we have assignment x equals 7, x left arrow 7. Now you don't need to worry about declaration. Now, as a general rule, it's always better to have possibly less pseudocode rather than loads, because what students do in the past, they convert every line into pseudocode, and there's no point to that. Well, you could argue there's no point to it anyway, but that's what they want. So there we go. There's some code that you should be aware of. That creates a button based upon this pseudocode here. So it'll create a button for every student. It'll put the tag property to be their student ID, and I'll put the text on the name. Now, if we want to do pseudocode, we could do that. That clearly states what's going on. We've got data reader there. That's what we're getting from the SQL. We want to keep the SQL in because that is fairly high level anyway. Well, dr.read, create a new button, make the student ID the tag, the tag equals to student ID, the text equals student name, give it a name, btn plus an I, and so forth. Then create an event handler or add it to the event handler, and then add the button to flow layout panel. Or this, dr is that, or dr.read, create a new button and add the flow layout panel. Now, which is best? That is certainly probably enough. All right, so don't feel like you have to do loads here. Now, okay. Now notice it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then basically you repeat that for each form. Now, if you're unsure about which ones to do, then make sure you see me before the start. Now, some people will do more than 3, some people will do less than 3. You know, if you've got loads of code, really good code that you want to draw attention to, then you need to put it in the design section. Okay, so let's have a look at some examples then. Let's have a look at Kirsty's first. Right, so screenshot, some nice descriptions there. Talks about all the features on this thing. Now I've got a feeling she's going to do loads. She's got on the for and load event, it calls a function called load flow layout panel, and there's a recipe got, I think that is, and then another 2 functions get called there as well. Right, so that's nice. And then you've got things going backwards and forwards to the functions, which is cool. Right, so eventually we will get to some pseudocode. There we go. I would use Courier New font there to make sure that looks more like code as opposed to just normal text. And it's got, you know, that's good. Okay. And it does go on and on and on and on. Right. So and then that's the end of that form. It's got some validation, so there's some pseudocode there for validation as well, and then does the next form. Right, let's have a look at Biddlescombs. Have I gone past Biddlescombs? Where is it? There it is. Right, okay, so now there we go. There's his form. And then he'll have some code down below in a minute, pseudocode. I'm hoping. Yeah, here's his structure chart. There's some pseudocode, and you could argue that's all right. That's all right. Okay, so I'll show you a different example. This one is Ross Moore's. So he didn't do a databasey one as such. It was more of a let's say it was a projectile simulator. So there's his structure chart. There's his form designs. There's his hierarchy. And keep going. Right, we're going to get some pseudocode soon. So it's the pseudocode. It's getting the wind from the. I think he had an option where he'd read the weather and set the wind against and stuff like that. Let's see if there's any bit more interesting. Yeah, there's a bit more interesting pseudocode. Yeah. Okay, so there you have it. In summary, it's a bit of a, well, most of this is a bit of a hassle, but the thing is, you do this after you've done the actual program. All right, don't do it before, because it won't match. All right, so you've got, in summary, then you've got a hierarchy chart. Not too bad. Just basically description of your tables, and then at least three forms where you have pseudocode, data entry validation, SQL, etc. you can show. All right, and that's worth 12 marks. And as I say, do that once you've done it. Okay, that's it.